G'day folks, today I'm going to explore how to determine if pick trades are worth it. So over time I've developed a set of rules, as you could describe it as a guideline to determine if pick trades are worth it. So rule number one, if it's one pick for two, I'd be wanting from a draft points perspective a 500 plus point benefit. Or if it's one pick for three, I'd be looking for a 1000 plus point benefit. So for example, if North Melbourne were to trade pick 3, which is 2,234 points, for West Coast picks 8 and 12, which equate to 2,819 points, this would be a suitable trade. So to give you the names that could be involved as an example. So pick 3, a likely pick would be Harry Sheezel, and the picks 8 and 12, if I was picking at least, I feel like I would be able to secure Mateus Filippo and Jed Busslinger as two that may be available. We don't know for sure, but I'm just predicting at least. Could be a chance. So as you can see, there's a tick. Why? Well, it's 500 points or over 500 points. So therefore, it's a suitable trade based on this first requirement. And for a second example to show what isn't quite suitable, this would be a 1 for 3 trade example. So if North Melbourne were to trade pick 3, which again equates to 2,234 points, for a combination of Greater Western Sydney's picks, which include 15, 18 and 19, which equates to 3,045 points, this wouldn't be a suitable trade. So again, using this example, so let's say you've got Sheezel at 3 who North Melbourne might be liking. Well, if they were to trade down, they might look at some combination along the lines of Lewis Hayes, Isaac Keeler and Jacob Constanti. So that'd be 3 picks that would be suitable for consideration around that range and a fair chance to be available. So is it a good trade? No, because it doesn't exceed the 1,000 plus point rule. So that's the quick rule number one method. So why 3 players of 3,045 points worth is worse than 2 players of 2,819 points? So these are the key ideas that need to be understood to really get this concept. So every list position needs to be assigned a value and have a premium applied. So my evaluation is that pick 36, which is 502 points, is a rough value of one list position. So any trade period analysis conducted that suggests Team X won a trade because they secured more points than Team Y are missing this layer of nuance, with the strict adherence to the points evaluations only beneficial for clubs needing the points for the purposes of bid matching. So, of course, Brisbane are the obvious example this year, requiring points for Will Ashcroft and Jasper Fletcher. So, where Hayes, Keeler and Constanti fall short of Filippo and Busslinger is not only do I get the 2 top talents out of, I guess, that group, you could call it, but if, let's say I was to go into the draft with that extra pick, and let's assume it's the last pick in the draft, someone like a Casey Voss could be available, with the understanding that pick 36 is a very rough estimate for the historic value secured through the selection of a state leaguer either late or in the rookie draft. So this is a point that I've never heard anyone else mention, but here I am mentioning it. So if you do your own analysis, go through however many drafts you like, make the sample size as large as you like, you'll find that around that sort of pick, let's call it 36 mark, is that sort of very rough level where you'll be finding that there's superior value available in state leaguers being selected. So that's why I use that as that sort of, I guess you could call it arbitrary mark. So the valuing of list positions, I consider at least to be the most underrated thing in the list management space. Every list position, and I mean every list position, in my view, needs to be either used on a best 22 player or someone who projects into the future to become a best 22 player. Otherwise, my view is you need to keep looking and move those players on who don't fit these categories. So clubs focus heavily on age demographics, and as a result, miss opportunities to secure value beyond the pick they're on average choosing by not taking enough state league talents or not recognizing the value of a veteran, and assuming once they hit or come close to the age of 30 that they're on their last legs. So the obvious examples here are Norm Smith medalist Isaac Smith. So we've got here age 33, well, he's turning age 34 in December. So of course 30 isn't retirement age. And then of course you've got the likes of a Brent Harvey, where even in his final season at age 38, there wasn't anyone in the competition that was ahead of him in both disposals and in goals kicked. And of course, highest kick rating in the competition, hadn't forgot how to run, so he easily, in my opinion at least, had 2 more seasons. Maybe he could have done more. Maybe he could have been playing beyond 40, we don't know. So never got that opportunity to give him a chance. So it's really important, and I'll make a separate video on this point, that you don't just make the assumption that 30 is retirement age, because that's capping your opportunity to get those guys who could potentially add to your best 22. So rule number 2, based on the rankings of the player I project to be best available at my selection, does the position they're rated on my draft board exceed in points value the picks I'm being offered? So, for example, if I hold pick 8, I would be personally selecting Matheus Filippo, and he's the number 2 ranked player in my power rankings. So I'm not going to be trading pick 8, which is worth 1,552 points, for a combination of picks 15 and 18. Which is worth 2,097 points, even if the deal is plus 546 points favourable. So why would that be? Well, I wouldn't be expecting Filippo to be available at that pick 15. So therefore, it just wouldn't be viable. So if Filippo is number 2 in my rankings, and I hold pick 8 and have confidence he will be available, I assign Filippo a points value of 2,517. So, of course, if I'm considering it that way, well, that 2,097 points is much less than that 2,517. Therefore, it's not viable. So, in this case, unless more than 2,517 points are traded to me in the form of 2 picks, a trade should not be considered in this situation. So the 500 plus points is not relevant in this calculation, as picks traded for will have some players available I will more likely than not value more highly in my rankings than the pick I would be trading for. So for an example, let's say Carlton offer pick 10 and their 2023 first. So this would be a suitable exchange with their 2023 pick only needing to be pick 14 or better to be worth it. And this is under the assumption that Filippo goes either pick 8 or pick 9, assuming I'm moving down to 10. So that would still be considered, in my view, worth it based on this calculation. So rule 3. So the sweet spot in the draft needs to be taken into account. So this year, with my view being that the top 8 in particular is very strong and even, I would be looking for much more than a 500 points benefit in a trade to be comfortable moving a pick inside the top 8. So for example, if I'm Geelong with pick 7, which equates to 1,644 points, Sydney's picks 14 and 17, which is worth 2,186 points, or a plus 542 points benefit, would not convince me to move pick 8 back this year, despite meeting the criteria of Rule 1. So you need to tie it into Rule 2. So if Filippo should be available at 7, the points value, if he's my second rated talent this year, gives him a worth of 2,517 points. So any offer would need to exceed this value. But if unsure Filippo will be available, an additional 500 plus points premium needs to be applied to that value of pick 7. So that means that 1,644 plus 500 gives that pick a value of 2,144 on the condition that you're just not sure Filippo will be available. So to give up pick 7 for times 2 picks, a points value of 2,644 or higher would be required to make that a worthwhile trade. So you're really giving those picks in that sweet spot a premium, really giving that understanding or showing that understanding that, look, you really don't want to move a pick in that range. And it would really take a ginormous trade to really, I guess, move that needle and make you genuinely consider that sort of trade. So I'm really trying to cover all bases here within the scope of these rules. So for the opportunities to actively pursue, so I'd be looking to trade back within the talent tier that you are in whenever you can. So for example, if I'm North Melbourne with pick 3, and I'm confident that Filippo will still be available at 6, despite being my best available talent at 3, I'd be more than happy to trade pick 3 for picks 6 and 24, and see if I can gain some additional favourable pick swaps as part of the deal if Hawthorn have a target they'd like to move up to. So any additional pick swaps I can get in there, that's just bonus stuff. And getting pick 24, well, that's a solid pick. So I'd be more than happy to do that any day of the week if I'm looking at the exact same player at 6 as I am at 3. So West Coast's involvement in the mega trade, which involved pick 2 moving for picks 8 and 12, I consider this year to be a good move. So it, of course, didn't meet the 500 plus points rule, but in my opinion at least, was good due to pick 8 being within that sweet spot where a Filippo or some other notable slider of similar quality to those in that same talent tier at pick 2 should be available. So I'd be looking to actively talk to all clubs looking to get into the pick range that I'm currently in and see within the scope of these trading rules whether such an exchange would be beneficial. And I'd be actively trying to also engage those clubs looking for draft points, as they'll be disproportionately going for quantity of picks over quality of picks. So the best time to engage these teams is when such a move can get you into a sweet spot on value and there is meaningful opportunity to move a good way up the order. So that hopefully gives you a rough feel there. But of course, if you enjoy this video, make sure you like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for future updates. And if you haven't already, make sure you follow me on Twitter at AFL Draft Expert. Because anyway, folks, see you in the next video.